What should your school stop doing next year? Not add, not improve, not revise. Stop. That's a different question. And if we're being honest, it's a question most leadership teams spend very little time discussing. Because schools are incredibly good at adding things: new initiatives, new programs, new expectations, a new meeting, a new process. But improvement doesn't happen simply because something new is introduced. Sometimes improvement happens because something unnecessary is removed. And as many of us begin planning for next year, this might be the most important leadership question we can ask. What no longer deserves our time, attention, and energy?
This is Your Morning Boost, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios. A weekly spark for educators and school leaders ready to lead, teach, and live with greater intention. This is Your Morning Boost.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Your Morning Boost, part of the Forward Ed Network. I'm really glad you're here with me today. And for many of you, the school year has already wrapped up. Students have left. The final staff meetings are all finished. That building is a little quieter than it was just a few weeks ago. And for others, you might just be crossing the finish line now. Either way, you've entered one of the most important leadership seasons of the year. And it's not because students are present, not because evaluations are due, but because you finally have enough space to think. Summer is one of those few times school leaders get to work on the system instead of simply working inside the system. And that's why today's conversation matters. Because as planning begins for next year, many schools immediately start asking, what should we add? What new initiatives should we launch? What new strategies should we implement or adopt? And those aren't bad questions, but they aren't the first questions. The first question should be, what should we stop doing? Because every new commitment competes with every existing commitment. So does every priority. And every new initiative asks teachers to divide their attention one more time. Today, I want to explore why schools accumulate so much, why leaders unintentionally create overload, and how we can build stronger systems by creating focus instead of adding complexity.
Strong schools don't just happen in classrooms. They happen in conversations. BrightPath Family Connect helps schools and families stay aligned with simple updates, reminders, and meaningful communication that actually gets seen. Because when families are informed, students are supported. BrightPath Family Connect. Better connection, better learning.
Are you ready to transform your school or classroom? Join hosts Adam and Jim on Control-Shift-Lead, the monthly podcast on the Forward Ed Network. Every episode, they bring in top educators from across the United States to deliver 3 game-changing insights: something you can control in your work, something that will shift your thinking, and something you can use to lead tomorrow. Don't just manage, lead. Subscribe to Control-Shift-Lead today.
Now, we all know schools accumulate things. I mean, it's what organizations do. And schools might be better at it than most any organization that I know of. I mean, think about your building for a moment. How many initiatives are currently active? How many meetings exist because someone started them years ago? How many reports are completed because they've always been completed? How many expectations continue simply because nobody has paused long enough to question them? The challenge isn't that these things are bad. Most of them started for very good reasons, and that's what makes this difficult. Very few ineffective practices began as ineffective practices. Most began as thoughtful solutions to real problems. But over time, the circumstances around those change. Our priorities shift. Heck, students change. Staff change. I mean, these needs evolve, and yet a lot of our practices still remain. And then something new gets added. And then something else gets added. And eventually schools find themselves carrying 10 years worth of solutions for problems that might not even exist anymore. I was working with a leadership team recently that was planning for the upcoming year, and they'd identified 5 major priorities. All of those were important, all were very worthwhile, and all of them, frankly, were supported by data. The problem wasn't the quality of the priorities, the problem was their capacity. Every one of those priorities required some training. It required communication and monitoring and resources. And if you're doing it right, follow up. And eventually, somebody in the room asked a simple question: if all of these are priorities, which one matters most? It was interesting because the room got really quiet. They realized they didn't actually have 5 priorities. They had 5 competing priorities. And that's a very, very different thing. One of the hardest truths in leadership is that every yes costs something. Every new initiative costs attention. Every new expectation costs energy. Heck, every new meeting, if nothing else, it costs time. And eventually that cost becomes visible in the form of fatigue. And it's not because people don't care, and it's also not because they're resistant. It's just because there simply isn't enough bandwidth available. That's why strong leaders don't just ask what should be added. They ask what should be removed. What has served its purpose already? What no longer aligns with our goals? Or maybe something that creates more friction than the value we're getting out of it. Because improvement isn't always addition. Sometimes improvement is subtraction. Now, before we get to our commercial break today, I want to thank our sponsor, Grunmeyer Leader Services. If you are considering your next leadership opportunity, preparing for interviews, or simply thinking about your future as an educational leader, Grunmeyer Leader Services provides tools and support designed specifically for school administrators. Their applicant insight services help leaders communicate their impact, articulate their leadership philosophy, and prepare confidently for career opportunities. You can learn more at www.grunmeyerleadersearch.com. Again, that is Grunmeyer Leader Services at www.grunmeyerleadersearch.com.
This segment is sponsored by Grunmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders, and they are here to help you find the perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader. Visit GrunmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grunmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
Okay, now in August of 2025, I attended the School Administrators of Iowa conference, and one of the keynote speakers was a gentleman by the name of 𝗙𝗍𝗄. And during his presentation, he introduced an idea that immediately stuck with me. He called it a cut the crap committee. Now, the title, of course, got everyone's attention. And to be honest, if you've ever seen Mr. 𝗙𝗍𝗄 talk, he's hilarious, and he's going to get everyone's attention anyway. But the concept behind this title is just what made it even better. The purpose of the committee was simple. Look at everything the organization does and ask one question: why are we still doing this? Not how can we improve it, not how can we expand it, just simply, why are we still doing it? And if the answer was, we've always done it, or I'm not really sure, then it earned further examination. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized schools need this. It's not necessarily a committee, but it's certainly a process, because schools rarely have a mechanism for removing things. We have systems for adoption, we have systems for implementation and training and accountability, but very few systems for letting things go. And that's where overload begins. We continue carrying old commitments while we are introducing new ones, and eventually the system just becomes too crowded. And then something interesting happens. Staff begin telling us that they're overwhelmed. Teachers begin asking for clarity, or people feel like they're running hard, but they're just not going anywhere. And our instinct is often to provide more support, more training, more meetings, more resources, when the actual solution may be fewer priorities. I keep coming back to something we've talked about before on this show, and that is that we didn't need more time. We needed better timing and better thinking. As I said last week, One of my favorite quotes, Dr. 𝗘𝗽𝗆, part of the Forward Ed Network, she often says, the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. And it's also true for our initiatives. Even great ideas can become burdens if the organization doesn't have the capacity to support them. Leadership isn't simply deciding what deserves attention. Leadership is also deciding what deserves attention right now. And that distinction matters because focus creates momentum. When staff understand the priorities, they can invest deeply. When priorities multiply, attention fragments, and fragmented attention rarely produces meaningful improvement. As leaders, one of the greatest gifts we can give our staff is clarity. Not certainty, not perfection, but clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about what can also wait and where energy can be and should be invested right now. That's how sustainable improvement happens. It's not through accumulation, it's through focus.
For students wondering what comes next and how to get there, there's 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀𝘆, a platform that helps learners explore careers, build direction, and take meaningful steps toward their future. Not overwhelming, just clearer paths forward. 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀𝘆. Every future starts with a next step.
You're doing incredible work in your classroom and community. Isn't it time the world heard about it? Welcome to The Commons, a dedicated podcast channel on the Forward Ed Network, built specifically for educational professionals like you. We provide the platform at no cost. You bring the ideas and the passion. We provide the reach to share them with the field. Ready to start your broadcast? Ready to share your knowledge with others? Email us at admin@forwardednetwork.com and join the conversation today.
As you move through the summer weeks ahead, I want to leave you with a challenge. Before you ask what should be added next year, spend time identifying what should be removed. Look honestly at your systems, at your routines, at your commitments, and ask the difficult question: what still serves students? What still supports teachers? Maybe what still aligns with who we are trying to become? And actually, maybe even more importantly, what are we carrying simply because we've carried it for years? Because every organization accumulates experience, but strong organizations turn experience into decisions. And one of the most powerful decisions a leader can make is deciding what no longer belongs. Summer planning is one of the few times that leaders get to choose their future before they have to manage it. Once August arrives, the calendar fills. The meetings begin, the demands return, but right now you have space and you have time for perspective. You have an opportunity to create focus before the year begins. So use it well, because the priorities you choose this summer will become the experience your staff lives next year. This will be the meetings they attend, the initiatives they implement, and the expectations that they carry. And ultimately, the culture they experience every day will be built on that too. Leadership isn't about doing more. It's about helping people focus on what matters most. And that's the work. That's the opportunity that's sitting in front of all of us right now. Thanks for being part of the work, and thank you for spending your time with us. We appreciate everything that you do for your students and your community. We will talk with you again next week.
That's your morning boost from AWB Education and Media. If this episode helped you reset your thinking or take your next step forward, share it with a colleague. And don't forget to subscribe so your next boost is ready when you need it. Keep showing up with intention. Keep moving forward, and we'll see you next time.